without further ado, Sherry, you got the floor.
Okay. First up, I'd just like to say thank you, Carl. And for those of you who don't know, I sat in a meeting with Melanie and Carl, and what he did for me was so meaningful. He took his nameplate off of his door, and I didn't know he was going to do this, and he was explaining his job, his duties that he does, and then he passed his nameplate to me, and it was very emotional. Yeah, very meaningful.
Do we just call you Carl now?
I hurt my finger.
We got that on tape, you know.
I jammed my finger moving this weekend, and I'm seeing a specialist today, Tim. I forgot to tell you about that. Okay, so first of all, what I'd like to do is just go over what the handouts the packet that you picked up. The first sheet, obviously, is the agenda that Dr. Bishop had created. The second sheet I want to draw your attention to is what Dr. Bishop, she touched on a lot of these things. 1 and 2, the big thing is there's going to be a master syllabus for every single course, and you as lead instructors are in charge of that master syllabus for your course. However, there's also going to be a student syllabus, which is different than the master syllabus, and that's new. Each instructor can change that student syllabus. The student syllabus isn't going to have all of this stuff in it, because they don't really need to know all that. But the master will. And you as lead instructors will be in charge of creating the master syllabus for your course or courses. Okay, any questions on that? The master student? Okay, then number 3, what Dr. Bishop had also touched on, if you have an undergrad and a grad course, normally we could put that syllabus together. Now we have to separate it into 2 separate syllabi. They each have to have their own, and they each have to have different assessments. So if you have a graduate level course, it needs to have more rigor than the undergraduate, other than just an extra research paper. That's what, is it HLC is going to be looking for?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I said don't worry about content, but you actually, if you are teaching a course that has that issue, you're going to have to think about content.
Okay, and then also on this cheat sheet, it talks about the credit calculator. Don't worry about that right now. When we go over to the computer lab, Dr. Tim and Dr. Collum are going to walk you through that mess. But the bottom is what you really want to worry about, the deadline for all these alignment sheets. Hopefully you'll leave here today and be able to turn it in today before you leave. But if you're not, then you have to get them into us by June 19th, which is next Friday. And here is who you turn them into at the bottom down here, depending on your program, which program you have. Does that make sense? Yep.
Melanie, you mentioned that we would not put program objectives in the student syllabi.
Well, that's what Sherry just said.
Well, right, Dr. Tim, these are not in.
The course objectives would be in the
Course.
student syllabus, but not the program or the division, right?
And in our case, a lot of our course objectives are program objectives. A lot of them you're going to find are the same. But for the
Well-
sake of making this student syllabus not as thick as they have been in the past.
The students will see both syllabi. They will all be posted in the Canvas show.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of administrators. They have to take the state exam for content and performance. They're all based off of ISLIC. They have to know ISLIC. And so for them to be conscious of ISLIC, we put them in every syllabus.
Oh yes,
They will be in their master. They'll have both syllabi.
Yeah.
They can have access to both syllabi.
But here, Shelton, what I think you're saying too is, as the instructor of that course, could you put those ISLIC standards in there for your students? Yes, you could.
Well,
there
they're
would be
already
nothing
there,
wrong with
so
doing
I
it.
don't want to take them out.
Then don't take them out.
But you don't have to have
How
them
many
in there.
ISLIC standards are there?
6,
Okay, well,
7 for
that's-
superintendents.
So that's 7 of your goals, 7 of your 12 goals then. Or objectives.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
So would that apply also for the most stuff?
Most be, yeah, it would apply for that too.
So you want them in or out?
In the student syllabus, they don't have to be in there. If you choose as an instructor to put them in there for your course, for your students, you can. But it's not required for the student, correct?
Correct.
You will find all of your courses are aligned to MOSFI goals. So I would recommend, if you have a course objective that's aligned to a MOSFI goal, to me, it makes sense to list the MOSFI standards in the student syllabus.
You're free to list in the student syllabus whatever you want, but
Yeah.
you do not have to put the program, division, and institutional goals there.
It's just not required.
Right.
That's what's
And
changed.
as a department, can we make a decision on that? Because it seems like our students need to know those goals. I mean, that's how they're evaluated.
So sure, let's put our program goals in the student syllabus. Okay, decision done.
Okay, we're gonna move on for time. Any questions on the cheat sheet?
This cheat sheet says ISLIC, although it is Missouri. It's the Missouri leader standards. So when you see that, that's also what that means.
Deadline next Friday if you don't finish today.
I know, but they're.
Let me make one clarification of your rule you just decided. If it's listed in the student syllabus as an objective, it must be assessed and we must have data delivered to us about that assessment. And there can only be 12 roughly.
We'll get, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
that's where
if
we're
it's on
headed.
the student, it is assessed, so when the HLC comes, they'll take the student syllabus and say, show me that assessment for that objective you have in your course syllabus. So we have to show them the data and all that stuff, so just remember.
But I think it'll be fine. If, let's say you have the 9 MOSFI standards listed and your course objective meets 4 of those, you can still have all 9
Right.
listed. As long as you've identified this meets standard 2, 4, and 7.
Yeah, right, yeah, we're good, I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure we have to be able to measure them.
Sure, yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do we do in situations like, I'm a psych examiner, and so we have 7 standards for the psych examiner, and our internship covers all 7 of those, and we cover all 7 of those explicitly in the internship. So is that combining program and course? Is that what you're saying?
I
So
think-
don't have to worry about exceeding the
Yes.
7 or the 5, rather?
Yes.
And we're gonna do a little practice here, and I think that'll clarify some of your questions that you have. So let's go ahead and do this and hold your questions if you don't mind for just a moment.
So take this out.
Yeah, the next 3 things I'd like you to look at are the next 3 sheets. The first one says, they all say practice, but the first one should say course, I'm just gonna point with my finger. Course learning outcomes, and some of the language has changed also. We would call that course objectives. They're calling it now course learning outcomes. Same thing. What you're going to do when you get your chart is you will write your course in there. Okay? We're going to practice with the course that I teach, Developing Responsible Learners. That's why I have that in there. These are just the objectives that are listed in the course syllabi. Now, what I want to show you is this is what the course objectives look like now in a syllabus. This is a syllabus. This is what the course objectives look like right here. It's changing to this master syllabi, which is going to look like this. But what you're going to get today, a little bit later, is your old syllabus that looks like this still. And if you notice, this is what we were saying. Currently, there's 7 objectives listed here, and you're going to have to narrow it to 5. Combine them however you want to as the lead instructor. You have to make it 5.
I'm gonna stop you for just a second.
Yeah.
It's kind of a question. He's like, but I do all 7. But for this, we want you to narrow it down. So stick to as few as possible. Next.
Okay,
How's
so
that gonna be compatible with DESI when they come in and review these?
The purpose of this is to collect what we're already doing, okay? And then for us to figure out what are our gaps. Does DESI expect us to meet all standards in
Yeah, like you
every
said.
class?
Not in every
like you
class.
said.
Not in every
Not in every
class,
class.
just by the end of the
Not
program.
in every class,
Mhm.
but for a capstone class like we teach, where it's an internship, everyone is covered. And so we have to show that we have met whatever the expectation is of DESI for the hours and for the, content.
I think that's a good question that we can get clarified with, is her name Kathy with
It's
HLC?
sort of like this
Yeah.
student teaching course in undergrad, you know, I mean, they're supposed to meet all of the standards in student teaching. And,
So if you teach a capstone course, feel free to go over the 12. just make sure you have an assessment that aligns to.
For
that.
each
Or
of
just
those.
make 1 7 and 1 3 and 1 1, it doesn't really matter. Or, I mean, you know, if you have
He means
7
like
cores, you're
7,
saying you have
3, and
7
1,
back
like
there,
that.
whoever was,
But
I'm
the
sorry.
course and the program are, they're pretty much the same.
Right.
So just say 7 for the course and the program, and list the 7. That's for 2 different groups, then, program and division, or program and course, right? So that's just 7.
What he's saying is, if this 7, if you have 7 here, and those are the same 7 and 2, you really only have 9.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So just call, it doesn't matter what the objective's called on the piece of paper.
And you may have 7 here, and the program may have 9. Maybe it's these 7 and
Plus
2
2
extra,
more,
but still it's 7 and 2 and 2, because 7 of these were already in the program. That's the great thing about education is, what makes it easier for you than some of our, from natural sciences is that the course and the program in a lot of cases are the same.
Right.
And the other places are not, or we don't even have them, so, yeah. then we-
And guys, this is sticky and messy and icky, and we love this feedback and need this feedback. We're all learning as we go, so I appreciate that information. And the 12 was just
That's
an
an
arbitrary number to give you a target to narrow down. We need to narrow down. Capstone maybe is a different animal, but the other courses, we just got to narrow down our objectives. Okay.
And some other courses, like James, what you teach, you do some professional development. Don't you do some professional development
PLC
courses?
classes.
Those are gonna be a little different too. So we don't know all the answers yet at all, because they haven't told us. They haven't given us a rubric yet. So we're gonna,
The
go ahead.
point we were making about the numbers is when Desi and then NK came for that visit for our reevaluation just a little bit ago, was in the meeting about assessment, they said, oh, you have 30 goals listed here. Now, we could ask you for every outcome and every test and everything, but you would have none of them. And we said, yeah, we don't have any of them. I mean, we say we do them, but we don't have the evidence. So what we came in an HLC finally said, oh, well, that's not really gonna work for our visit coming up in 2016. So we have to limit something here somewhere, because we are not gonna have everybody assessing every goal everywhere. That's the point. So if you need 7, you need 7 course objectives or 9 course objectives, doesn't matter. Just limit then what else you add, because you're not gonna have 30 goals listed in a syllabus and measure all 30 of those goals. And I don't mean you personally, but across the, if 4 people teach that course, then we have to have whatever. You know.
If you teach in K through 12, or if you have taught in K through 12, we just went through all of this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just narrowing, and you're becoming more intentional and purposeful in your assessing and your making of objectives. So we're gonna do a little practice.
Okay.
That's what we're gonna do now. So if you take out, it says your MOSB program objectives sheet and the course learning outcomes sheet. These 2, just have those 2 for right now. And grab a partner. It's always better if we work together.
I picked this room, so you would have tables in front of you.
You're gonna have the course learning outcome sheet and the MOSB program objectives. We're gonna do a little practice with my course. Just these, and if you'll put them just like I have them up here, because it'll make it a little bit easier for you. So that when you do your course, I'm trying to walk you through it as simple as we can. Okay, are we ready? Okay. So if you notice, objective or course learning outcome, number 1, has all of these MOSB standards, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Do you see that? It can only be 1 now. That's one of the changes. So as we created multiple choice questions in the past, what you're going to do is choose the best MOSB standard that fits that learning outcome or that learning objective. So now look at your MOSB program objectives 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So you're going to look at 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8 and see which one do you think that objective, number 1, would best fit. And then I'll tell you what Dr. Bishop and Dr. Collum and I came up with. So you're choosing one of these MOSB standards that this objective best fits and circle it. Yep, work together. Any questions? Okay. Just choose one. Which of those MOSB standards best fits the